Number 22.
All right.
Can my water, please, baby? And give you another one.
Man, this is turning into just a shitty sports night for me.
Yeah, it's weird that Houston would come back after a freaking grand slam.
I know, man.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. Braves were up 4-0. They just chopped away.
And then in the fifth inning, I think they sent Houston sent like 10 people to the plate or something like that.
Something like that.
Now
they're up 9-5.
Ooh, and we're going back to Houston.
I did not want that, but oh well, we'll deal with it.
All right, we're joined by our friend wrestling genius Brad Stutz, who we saw tonight at the show because we went to a show and it was fun, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But Brad, it's at Stutzy, STUTTSY on Twitter. We want to get the plugs out of the way because I know November is a really big month for you. WrestleCade is just around the corner with Tracy Myers and AML. Tell us all about WrestleCade and all the fun stuff that's coming up.
Well, it has really grown to become the biggest weekend in the South for pro wrestling. If by any chance you're not familiar with WrestleCade, it's every Thanksgiving weekend in Winston-Salem. And literally luminaries from all over the wrestling universe will be there this year. One of the headliners is Sting. We've got my dear close personal longtime friend Matt Hardy is there, and my other dear close personal longtime friends FTR are there, which I'm super excited about. But literally dozens and dozens and dozens of independent wrestlers, superstar wrestlers from TV, legends, all under one roof. It's a whole weekend long. There's a live event Friday night, which is championships from different wrestling organizations from all over the country being defended at the Showcase of Champions on Friday night. Convention all day long on Sunday, or excuse me, on Saturday. Saturday night is the WrestleCade Super Show. That's where a lot of your superstar, your big name wrestlers will be in action, and then AML Wrestling and Ladies Night Out, an all ladies event, closes the weekend out on Sunday. So yeah, it is. It literally is about 11 months of prep that goes into this blockbuster weekend every November.
It's WrestleCade.com. In addition to Sting, Kurt Angle, Gail Kim, WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry, Braun Strowman, the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, Kane, Ted DiBiase. In fact, Ted DiBiase and Mike Rotunda together as Money Inc. You'll have opportunities.
Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham at the U.S. Express is another photo op. I believe it's being offered.
Yeah.
Take it back to WrestleMania 1.
The great Kevin Sullivan, the great Arn Anderson, just about everybody that you could even imagine is going to be there. With all the Steiner brothers will both be. You want
to call somebody a wrestling genius? Kevin Sullivan is who I really am hoping to spend a few minutes with, and just literally get a cup of coffee or something with, and just be like, just feed me information.
It's all the.
You ever done that with him before? I'm sorry.
Have you ever sat down with Kevin Sullivan?
No, I never have. But somebody that an absolute genius as far as structuring events and TV shows and finishes and things of that nature. So yeah, but he's probably number one actually on my list for this year to sit down and hopefully get a few minutes with.
The only Kevin Sullivan story we have was at that ROH pay-per-view. When he's the surprise appearance and he ran in. Was he actually the guy that was the run-in on the Steve Corino match?
Yeah.
Yes, I was there that night.
So some kid who I think was like challenged, had diminished capacity. He smacks Kevin Sullivan with his shoe. Yes, he's getting out there, and Kevin's like getting ready to, and he kind of just sees, oh, that's kid, yeah, it's fine. And then I scream at Kevin Sullivan, "You're the devil! You're the devil!" And then he just runs. Oh, that's
that was awesome.
That's the only.
Just another wrestling show.
Piper Stutz just made his podcast debut over my shoulder.
Oh, there he is. It's Piper. Oh.
I believe Piper Stutz just made his broadcast debut.
Piper.
That was the same night.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out tonight. I thought it was a home run show. I really did.
It was fun.
I loved it.
The night that we saw Kevin Sullivan was also the same night that they had the Steve Corino and BJ Whitmer match. And we were like, why are they? I don't understand why they're wearing linen. Why are they wearing all white? And
looks like a doctor. What the hell?
Steve Corino seems to have bleached his hair like really, really white for that. I don't understand what's going on. Not realizing, of course, that they were going to.
And he had like something letters down his leg.
Yeah.
It wasn't Chinese. It was something more kind of obscure.
And they were doing, and of course,
I've forgotten that.
They bled 5 million gallons of blood that night, and it was super fun.
It was a bloodletting, is what it was.
We were at an event at Firestar Pro Wrestling, which we'd never been to before, and it really had a fun time. And I thought that main event was going to be Lee Johnson against Andrew Everett, which is fine, but we saw some really good stuff, and those guys do a really good job. Everybody has gear. The guys seem to work, and they've got a good training academy. And what is your official or unofficial involvement with Firestar Pro?
I have known the head trainer at the Firestar Academy for a number of years, his early days in the business, and they have just moved to a new location, which is also where the wrestling school is housed, and it's just a few minutes up the road from where I stay at. So I kind of got in touch with him. They had graciously made me an offer some time back when I was on status some years back, and I kind of got in touch with them, and so basically just kind of I guess an official title would be consultant, something in that, right along with the loose broadcast, but just kind of working with them. It's a great training center, a great wrestling school. And literally unbelievable talent that's come out of it. But even though there's some great talent there, the thing that has actually the thing is the culture around the place. You know, and I've told some of them this, that, you know, when I was coming up, and even places been associated with prior to this, if you were a trainee, if you were a wrestling school student, it was miraculous called name. I mean, there was a kid named CWF Mid-Atlantic for probably a year who literally wore a Spider-Man hoodie on his first day of training. To this day, I don't know his name. He was Spider-Man. That's all anybody ever called him. And so the culture at Firestar is very very accepting. You are respected and called their proper name and not fucked with. To be quite honest, and a lot of places, you, as a young person in the business, you are, I'm not gonna say, hey, there is a level getting into the fraternity, so to speak. And I'm very impressed with the culture at Firestar and how accepting they are of all going on the staff. It is a really good environment there.
FSPWrestling.com is their website, and they do have something coming up on November the 14th. They just announced Jay Lethal is going to be on their show on November the 14th. FSPWrestling.com. I can't recommend it. It's going to be like a lot of fun, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I got to do commentary tonight with White Mike. Got to see my first time meeting Lee Johnson. I think Andrew Everett match. Quite frankly, on a card of phenomenal matches. I really thought everyone, it's a young locker room, but everyone hit on.
Yeah, it was a really good show. Very professional. Everybody did a great job, and I thought they had some good production value, and everything was it was a lot of fun. So FSPWrestling.com, and if you want to look at WrestleCade, go ahead and check out WrestleCade.com for all the stuff you need to know and find out about that. We'd love to see you on Thanksgiving weekend.
Not that I'm
I said this on commentary tonight.
What?
I said this on commentary tonight, and you guys for this reference. Did you have flashbacks as Jackson Drake and Jay Malachi were fighting over the building, and going through chair tables and just two young guys just busting their ass. Did you have flags to like Kamikaze Kid and Nick Styrus just to go? Because I made that point on commentary, and you guys were there for that era as well.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we think a lot about CWF and reminisce about a lot of the CWF stories from back in the day. And I was remembering the one tonight, especially that involved Andrew Everett. When we go to, you'll be able to clean this one up a little bit and remember some of the details better than I can. I think this was like 2013, 2014. It was in that situation. They had National Pro Wrestling Day, and it was somewhere up in PA. Can you tell me where in Pennsylvania? Do you remember where that was?
I was at the Philadelphia National Guard Arms. Philadelphia. I ran there, car there. It was a little bit of a hub for Philadelphia wrestling at the time. If you didn't run the arena, a lot of times you were running there.
So they had all of these promotions. I don't know if they're from all over the country, but they were from all over the East Coast for sure. And people were sending a lot of workers, and all the indies went there. And it was just a massive, massive day. And CWF's big match was going to be Chiba Kid, that's Andrew Everett under a mask against this new kid named Trevor Lee. And they're like, okay, this is going to be our match, and we're going to blow people away. And they did this really, I think there was like a ton of high spots, did an incredible match. They blew the roof off of the place. People who were jaded and have been in wrestling for like 100 years were even like, holy shit, this is fantastic. So it's really emotional. And Stutz tells this story where he goes backstage to Andrew Everett, and he's like, oh man, Andrew, that was amazing. And you pick up the story from there, Brad.
So I meet him at Gorilla. I feel like everybody knows now what that term is. I meet him at Gorilla, and I'm hugging, and I was like, oh my God, we tore the house down. Like, we killed it. It was validation for all these years. Man, guys, killed it, amazing. And he whispers in my ear, Chiba Kid mask, I broke Trevor's jaw. And I said, you what? He goes, I broke Trevor's jaw. And then he broke free from the hug and just walked off. And it was very cinematic quality. I'm just standing there like, what? And I see them kind of carrying Trevor back, and he's holding the jaw. And on the double rotation moonsault, the knee caught him right in the jaw, and that was it.
Trevor's out of action for like a couple of months. And at that point, he has a chance to kind of go in his cocoon, rethink everything that he's doing. And then he became the Trevor Lee that we knew. And now, of course, that's Cameron Grimes, as most people know him on NXT.
Yeah, up to that point, and you guys were probably around for the kind of doing like a Justin Bieber kind of thing. It was kind of popular at the time, and he was doing kind of like almost like a teeny bopper. But yeah, he came back from that injury a savage.
That's amazing.
That's one of my favorite stories from CWF. It's one of the ones we don't talk about very much, but it was again part of the making of Trevor Lee, who became an independent superstar, and then eventually he was a guy that the WWE had to have. And now, as we're talking about this tonight, on the new NXT 2.0, it looks like he's just this guy. They can throw anything at him, he's going to get it over. It doesn't matter whether it's going to be comedy or serious or whatever you're in a program with, he's going to make that happen. He's going to be able to find a way to get it over.
Yeah, he's a fantastic utility man, and we got to see a little bit of that in 2014, 2015, before he really ascended to being like the top dog. I remember a moment of putting cards together, putting shows together, and knowing that Trevor was a great utility man that could, like you put it where and put it in the end.
So we wanted to talk about some of the things that are happening, obviously, in wrestling, and you and I discussed this a little bit tonight. The big announcement coming from ROH is that they're going to have like what they call a relaunch. They're stopping things down. Late December, they're going to be having a card, and then they're going to re-examine things for next year. I personally feel that ROH is going to unfortunately go away. Their parent company, Sinclair, when they bought that promotion many years ago, I felt like Sinclair would find a way to screw it up. What are your thoughts about what looks like it could be the potential demise of Ring of Honor?
Having no personal privileged information, I share your concern. Will be the relaunch will not materialize, and it's so because he had everyone maybe not everyone, but I hear your concerns that you had about Sinclair Broadcasting as a
Right.
but then they earned so much gold during the pandemic. Paid their trans. I even heard some reports, I wasn't there, but I heard some reports that they were buying people for the taping. Just really went above and beyond to take care of everybody during the pandemic, to the point that they had earned so much goodwill in the industry of, hey, this is a place that you want to work. I don't know what transpired to cause the hammer to fall there, but it's a shame because they had earned a lot in a good company to work for.
What do you think ultimately, if this is the end of ROH, what is ROH's legacy going to be in the industry as a whole, do you think?
Honestly, monumental.
Yeah.
And I don't overstate that. Monumental. You know, you can trace what what was pre-identified as like the NXT style, the super indie style, the boom of the indie in like 2016, 2017, everybody started doing exclusive contracts. I mean, you can trace that back to Ring of Honor. The networking of distributing VHS tapes and later DVDs and just you know, when I got started in the business, I mean, you could take order, but there was no outlet for a Trevor Lee or an Everett. I'll put it right there. There was no outlet for a Brass Monkey or a Rick Converse to actually be exposed to wrestling that's happening in Iowa, Pennsylvania, Texas. You know, you had to go there and kind of shrunk the a lot of ways, and pay rating and smart radio also was instrumental in that. And it opened the world up to that were previously just in North Carolina could get booked in Pennsylvania. They could get booked in Chicago or Los Angeles. So yeah, their impact is monumental overall.
You look at some of the guys that have blown up the industry. You look at the CM Punks and the Bryan Danielsons, and you look at Seth Rollins and some of those guys. You directly can go back and look at them getting an opportunity in ROH, and that's the reason they got to the place that they're at today.
Positively, and exposure, and you know, it's the there's a lot of flavors of wrestling and a lot of people favorite or whatever, but I mean, whether you prefer AEW or what NXT was or PWG or all that traces back to Ring of Honor, in my opinion. Not that there wasn't independent wrestling before that, but what came to be known, I guess, super indie style, I think you can trace back to the formative years of Ring of Honor.
Yeah, and I think you pointed out correctly. I think that was kind of Triple H's inspiration for starting NXT, wasn't it? The Ring of Honor thing.
Yeah. And you know, and that's another crazy situation. Like, so much has happened to turn things upside down just in the past couple of months with his health issues and NXT getting rebranded. It's an exciting time in the industry, but it's also a crazy time in the industry.
Yeah, everything has kind of gotten turned topsy-turvy, and it's also within that COVID envelope and how that's trying to kind of change things, and it's very odd right now. I think of the Kerry Silken era of Ring of Honor, and then I think of the Sinclair era, and there was some strange things that were going on with Sinclair. I always thought that the show did pretty well, for example, in our market, but they ran the one show that time at the Greensboro Coliseum Special Events Center, and I guess Jimmy got out of hand and got pissed off at somebody, and Sinclair was kind of like, we don't really care about it. We don't know if we want to run another show over here ever again. And then they had these great affiliates. JR would talk about in Oklahoma City, they had this fantastic affiliate, but they never. There didn't seem to be a lot of synergy between the television product and the wrestling thing. They always kind of tried to keep it at arm's length, even though they kind of recognized and kind of acknowledged that it was a good TV product and it was something that they could put on and get ratings with. Yeah.
And chime in here by all means. I seem to recall some. It may have been an interview. It may have been a Cornette interview. To quote the story, I saw someone who would have been there making the statement of that there was a contingent who wanted to follow TV and run the market where the TV was strong, and then there was a contingent that just wanted to book events in the they would like to go to. I can't remember what the sort of was. I heard that as a talking point years and years ago.
Yeah, and then Jimmy talks about his time there, and it was just difficult to get anybody on the same page, and they had people that were just trying to protect their own fiefdoms, and then it seems like a mess. And I don't think even in the past couple of years when anybody kind of could have grabbed a hold of the reins of it to say, this is going to be the plan, this is what we're going to do. And of course they had those disastrous efforts they had at pay-per-view that would continue to do worse and worse as they would go on with all sorts of technical problems. So that's a lot of that stuff comes through. It's just,
I think the technical term for that is Bush League. Is what I think.
they would always be like, "Oh, we got it this time. We've nailed it this time. This is going to be the most awesome thing you ever saw." And then it would go back, and the audio would be terrible, and the video would be bad, and the feed would go out. It would just be it would just be so embarrassing because this is a product that people wanted to see over and over again. You had a lot of hardcore fans who were like, I want to see this product. I love, the Briscoes, and I love Jay Lethal, and I love all of these guys that have really had a chance to shine in Ring of Honor. But then they would put on these pay-per-views, and it was just like extremely frustrating. And Jimmy at some point was just like so embarrassed. They could just never, ever, ever seem to get that whole thing right.
Yeah, I remember Jimmy tells a story. I can't remember the specifics of it, but it was something to the effect of on one of the live broadcasts, someone tripped over or somehow like the master, like everyone was plugged into like one power cord or one whatever and shut the whole thing off the air. How everything plugged into one thing gets pulled off the air.
It's almost like a comedy of errors. And you know that if on a corporate level they would have cared anything about it, they would have given enough technical support to where it wouldn't have been like a 5th grade production of Our Town. It was something that where a guy wouldn't have been able to trip over a cord and be able to knock something offline. But they just never. I used to do some tapings at a Sinclair station, and I would go there and I told them, hey guys, you bought a wrestling company back when they bought the thing. They're like, oh, we didn't know anything about that. So it was never like something. It was never like, let's go into the meeting room on Monday. Hey guys, we have this thing called Ring of Honor. We're going to really get behind it. We're excited. It's going to air at like 10 o'clock Friday night, and then like 11 o'clock Saturday night, and then we're bring them to town, and we have the wrestlers in. It's going to be. They never did any of that. They never had like full ownership and embracing of the whole thing. I don't think even at a local level.
As a media professional, both of you, what do you think the point was? Just to have some children would be in control of?
You want to go first on that one, Bryant?
No, you take this one.
Well, I think they had some aspirations of like, we're going to be able to put on some compelling weekly programming in some areas where wrestling has traditionally done very well, like, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point, and maybe Greenville, Spartanburg, places like that. And it's going to be pretty natural, and we can put some sales force behind it, and it's going to be ours. We control it. We could either put Emeril Lagasse selling his new, air fryer, or we can do this, and this is something that we'll be able to monetize. And in some cases, we can bring them to local shows, and we can help schmooze some of our sponsors and actually make money off of this thing. But I don't think, again, there was an ownership of it. The thing that I remember, not only from the Greensboro market, but I remember one time they brought them to the Asheville market, and they've got a pretty good affiliate there as well. And they put them at the Western North Carolina Ag Center, which is a pretty good deal. I think they did it during the Western North Carolina State Fair, which is a big deal. They have a lot of people there and stuff. And it just so happened, it coincided with that unfortunate time where Jay Briscoe had made those comments about homosexuals, and he had to get in the ring and apologize, and he was very tearful. And so that was just bad luck and bad timing. You know, that was just like, oh, we have this. This is going to be good. And we're going to put on a show. And then, oh, shit. Well, this happened. And then, you know, it seems like there is a series of unfortunate events that happened. But there's also like, there was just never from a corporate level a commitment to like, let's turn this into something. Does that sound right to you, Bryant?
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, one small thing that I like, and don't laugh, but this is one thing I like about ROH, at least in our market, that it comes on at 11 o'clock on Saturday night. Now, I know we can go to YouTube and all these other outlets that you got nowadays, but just something about it coming on at 11 o'clock on Saturday night, I like that.
It's kind of comforting, and you still, television is still like really important, and to have the kind of affiliates they had with the kind of power was really big. But a lot of times when you get into these corporate situations, it's also like, if a guy steps out and he says, I'm going to be the guy, I'm going to be the point man, I'm going to take control of this thing. If it fucks up, it's on him. And then all of a sudden his standing in the corporate ladder goes down about 5 notches. So he's like, I'm good. I'll just be over here doing spreadsheets. You know, a lot of that stuff happens.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of what happened. And, you know, as we get into this thing with corporate culture and with the World Wrestling Entertainment, it looks like Vince McMahon desperately is trying to sell the whole thing to, you know, Comcast, Universal, or whoever he's trying to sell it to. If you think the corporate bullshit that's involved with WWE is bad now, you may think of this as the good old days at some point in the future if Comcast, Universal gets their little grubby paws on it. You always got to be careful about that stuff. Careful of what you wish for.
Yes. But you know what, Stutzy, I was going to say, you know, one thing that I remember initially when Britt and I would start coming out to the CWF Mid-Atlantic shows, maybe it was the first thing, but if not, it was right there at the top of the thing that I noticed the most when we first walked in and was checking things out, was the daggone production value you guys had, man. It was amazing to me. And you know, and I think you guys would come on. I don't know which channel it was, but y'all had a deal going on with one of the local stations here coming on, and I'm like, man, I was really impressed with that. And that was what, 15 years ago,
long time ago.
So I was just
wasn't a lot of that stuff about that. That was a lot of that stuff was Grant's doing, wasn't it? Wasn't he the guy that was proficient in all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, it's weird. He's my best friend in the world. I would never take anything away from his proficiency. He's very those movies. He's one of those that, like, I have my own system. Mm-hmm. Everybody leave me alone. Cause he would have like wires and laptops and even like VCRs back in the day when need be. Like together by like bubble and wine, like the show would look great and would get on the air and everything would be great, and like someone would try to be like, hey, you should use whatever service or whatever app or whatever anything is in now, but it was very like he was able to incredible looking and a fantastic sound product with just a system that he had MacGyver. It was just perfect for our needs. And part that never gets told is that it was, you know, I feel like people have pieced together over the years what a shoestring budget was on, the least. But like the stuff that Grant as technical director could make work literally on like just old machines and using programs that nobody else used and our stuff would look better than guys that were using top of the line machines. It was just, it's all in. He just had it all by our needs.
Let's talk about the Charlotte Flair situation, because we saw Charlotte Flair making an appearance on SmackDown on Friday night, and I went, because there's been a lot of consternation, a lot of discussion over this. Of course, they had a little bit of a kerfuffle with something that was supposed to happen last week with an exchange of belts, and one of them falls to the floor, and then things happen that aren't supposed to happen, and allegedly she is escorted from the building by security. And apparently Vince McMahon was not happy about this.
Acknowledge me.
We're not really sure where Charlotte. We always. I guess since they let Bray Wyatt go, everybody backstage was really like, oh shit, they really will fire anybody. I would think that Charlotte Flair, being the top female talent in the world, I don't know, I guess arguably, would have a bit of leverage, but it seems like they're not super happy with her right now, Brad.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I would certainly think, she would be what I'm a made man, so I guess I'd be a made woman.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's not always, but there have been little reports of this over time, and I don't know if people have probably caught on, but there's been instances like she would do a job on TV and then like we're laughing or smiling on the floor, like not putting it over, like kind of no selling it, and little things like that kind of border on, if not cross into unprofessional. I've met on she has to deal with. Definitely, there are definitely things to point to. Like Bray Wyatt, like Rowan, from which you can make a educated guess and like honest could be anybody that gets chopped on the chopping block.
I just don't know exactly. I know they're not real. I know that I think they've allegedly not been happy with her, like having pictures taken with her husband and stuff. And I don't know how they are able to get Andrade over in AEW. We can talk about that in a minute, but I'm not sure where Charlotte stands right now. And again, what her leverage might be. Were you thinking that too when you saw her on Friday, Brian? Was, oh shid, Charlotte's in the ring talking. This could turn bad.
and of course she had to bring it up. So it just makes you think, did it turn, was it one of those shoots that turned into a work, or work that turned into a shoot kind of thing? I mean, you don't know sometimes. And I think we were just talking about this with Charlotte not too long ago, about sometimes, at least for me, she's one of those people that sometimes you don't know where to draw the line between work and shoot. And I have a hard time with that with her. So I don't know. Yeah. But when I saw her on SmackDown, I'm like, okay, here we go. What are they going to do with this? And sure enough, that was part of it. So you just makes you go, was it a work? I don't know.
We never know with these things. Plus the situation with her dad saying goodbye to the company and parting ways and all that stuff. And
and Andrade giving the big FU to WWE on Twitter. I mean,
he never misses an opportunity. I don't know if he realized that makes things a little tough for her. Go ahead, Brad.
He left no room for interpretation whatsoever. Could not have been more clear.
Yeah, and I don't know. See, it's weird for me now to look at. I love AEW, and I think AEW puts out the best product, but there's just shit that they do that just drives me insane sometimes, and it's just unnecessary, self-referential meta stuff that they do. And now it appears that the key to putting Andrade over is he's going to be the antidote for everybody that hates Cody. Now that people are hating Cody Rhodes, he's going to be the voice of the fan. He's going to kick Cody Rhodes' ass for you, and he's going to do what you fans want to. And supposedly this is going to get him over. And I don't know. It's been very difficult to get this guy over, Brad.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it in that direction. I do think he's a world-class talent. The matches with Pac, and I think he carries himself well. I even think WWE in particular is all very aggressive in making sure that when he speaks a certain way, it sounds a certain way, and I kind of think his voice and his demeanor and everything works for him. But yeah, I think one of those things where and again, if I'm in AEW's position, I would have picked up all these people too. But you get so many people in kind of all in a cluster. And I got there a little bit before the floodgates open. But it's just tough. It's tough to find. It really is.
it's so many people. They keep stacking bodies on top of bodies. They've only got a 2-hour show, and then they've got Rampage. And I don't know, when you have that many people that you sign, it's a tremendous amount of talent. And from where I'm looking, it looks like the ultimate build, or at least the natural build, is going to be CM Punk versus Bryan Danielson, probably next Labor Day weekend. It's probably going to be their deal. So you're going to kind of move toward that. It looks now like Eddie Kingston's going to be the next dance partner for CM Punk, which is great. Nobody can really argue with that, but they just do. So I'm sorry. I don't get this Dark Order thing. Can you help me with the Dark Order and make me understand? Because it's driving me crazy. It's driving me nuts.
He's not. Man, I've tried so hard, Stutzy. I've tried so hard to stand up for the Dark Order, and it just doesn't work. I've been trying for a year or so now, and it's the brick walls there, dude. So good luck with this.
Yeah, I know. I think they, I think there's some talent. Over has gotten himself over and has produced.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough when you have so many guys in a little cluster. Like, I always think back to the NWO when you had a couple of guys and everybody there. Even if you the notion of like booking, it's just simple. Human nature. It's just no different than a movie or a book that has too many characters and you keep so much. So I think when a group and 8 or 10 guys walk out there, it's kind of tough for anybody to really get over. Plus, this can't be, overstated. You got to remember that what we're conceptualized for the Dark Order and how it's going to play out, all fell through with Lee's passing, and then I think a lot of they're sort of reinventing themselves as sort of kind of like a wholesome, fun, show, but that all had to come, in the wake of this tragedy. Like, they can no longer be these heels, frankly. So enough time has passed potentially to get away from that, to do things. There would probably, and I don't know this firsthand, but I think there would have been a desire from everybody to stay together and keep the Dark Order going, passing for at least a while. So that, as they say, it could get a fresh coat of paint somehow. I don't know, but that's possible.
I thought for a while that they were just looking for the right guy to be the new Brody Lee. I thought they were just looking for, like, whether that was going to be.
I thought that too.
It was going to be Bray Wyatt, or it was going to be this guy, or it was going to be that guy. And then all of a sudden, and I don't know, it's just such a weird amalgam of human beings. And then sometimes they run in on this one, and sometimes they like Adam Page, and then sometimes they don't like Adam Page. And then I just, it sometimes it's painful how much they're trying to get these guys over, in my opinion.
So with that in mind, and for this information on that, put thought into the universe, if time has passed, you could do something different and not disgrace Brody's memory, or however you want to phrase it. I think Age has got to win the title, or they've got to have something really good to get out of it. Kane ripping off the door to get out of the Sean Taker. So just kind of putting this thought into the universe. I think potentially something a lot of people not seeing. Maybe the Dark Order turns on Page in a crucial moment, and kind of back to the form of being more menacing. Maybe do win Rotunda right there. Maybe you don't. Maybe there's maybe that never comes. But just gotta either time or he's dead in the water without a hook, and that would be enough of a good hook if it's something intriguing to capture people's imagination. That's just my opinion. The build is so, and I would do this times to be memorable, of where we were going to go in one direction, but things just got hot or things happened a certain way. And, a perfect example, Nick Richards was supposed to win the television title. He never won it once. And it's just did, but it was just bad timing. I'm like, I think we kind of, one of the times was when Trevor got it, I think. It's just, we can go with this, whatever. So, like, if you don't go with Paige at this pay-per-view, I don't know if they're as strong as it is now. So that's why I'm putting myself in that position. No matter what the original plan was, if that wasn't the original plan, was to put Paige over that one, I'm thinking hard about it right now because they've got the lightning in a bottle right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the time would be right for Paige, and I think you could do a lot with that at this point in time. But I think there's also, like, when MJF was talking about those 4 pillars of building, for the future of that, of AEW, you have to kind of take care of. There's so many guys on the rosters. I think I really feel like there's a lot of drama between those vice presidents. I think there's so much palace intrigue, and I guess the irony of that is, of course, this was the promotion that was supposed to get away from all that backstage bullshit. And I just feel like there's the Bucks have their thing going on and their fiefdom, and then Kenny Omega kind of does his video game thing, so he's over here. But then Cody's got a thing here, and we hear all of these reports of the vice presidents being at loggerheads, and I don't know. It just feels like there's so much that they could do and so much good stuff that happens on there, but there's just stuff that they do. And people that just show up. If you're there for 2 weeks at the Monster Factory, all of a sudden you're on TV in the main event. At, like 9:30 Wednesday night, there you are. Boom, you get to go into the main event. And it's not. I'm not calling out one guy or another, but that seems to happen. If you hang out with Pepper Parks for enough time, you get a contract, and you're going to be on at 20 minutes past 9 on Wednesday night with a guy who's been in the business for like 10 years. And I understand we have to take care of the boys, and I understand that everybody loves Sean Spears, and he's such a nice guy. But at some point in time, there has to be somebody in that promotion who says no. And I don't think Tony Khan is the guy that's going to be saying no. That's my opinion of what's going on at AEW.
I haven't been there. I've never met Tony. I'm people who know us that we would get along because we can both converse about obscure wrestling and specific people, Series 88 and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't pay off people think, and I don't know if he is. I don't know that he gets I guess, for lack of a better term, walked on as much as people think. I feel like probably got better in a couple of months. I put this out on social media. I can't remember if I've talked to you guys since then, but the last pay-per-view Labor Day weekend, that was their bash at 96. That was their turning point moment when you can have Cole Ryan and even Ruby Riott, Punk there. That was their bash at the beach 96. And so from now, it's that way right now. I actually think genuinely the product has improved. The television product, especially, I think is stronger than it's ever been. So I feel like the buck is stopping at somebody. The conversation is stopping with somebody. I put this up so this time. They're doing a lot of things right. A lot of things right now.
What do you think, Brian? I mean, they're still hitting the demos the way they should be and stuff, but is the stuff that really grinds on my gears, is that the stuff that really matters, or am I just generationally out of touch?
No, I think you've got a fair point. Sometimes, and I think I'll go a little bit deeper, maybe not. It's almost really the same thing, but just to me, it's just some of the inside stuff seems to, I don't know. It seems to get a lot of the airplay and hard parts of storylines and that sort of thing. When we talked about that before too. About well, you didn't see March of 2019 when he came out behind the curtain and winked at me. I mean, no. Okay, we're not going to do that. So that's the kind of stuff that kind of bothers me. And honestly, I don't think they do it quite as much as they used to. But I'm not as down on it as you are. I'm pretty good with it. I don't really have the only thing I do have an issue with is the one thing you did mention about just they've got too many people right now. And I think that's going to become an issue if it's not already become an issue. And I think it has become an issue with Brian Cage. It seems like I don't know what that's really all about, but
well, you have to kind of do the thing that Vince did, where you have to split it into two shows and have these guys over here and then these guys over here, and then the WWE's been really not very good about not crossing lines and trying to put people over here and then put people over here. Then wait a minute, this show's getting better than this show, and I like this show more than this show, so I can't let this show get better than this show. So we got to take some of the people from over here and put them over here so that this show can be evened up. And it's almost 50-50 booking among television shows.
Well, maybe they're testing the waters a little bit with Rampage to see if they could actually do that and it could sustain.
I would love
like a Raw and SmackDown.
I would love it if there was like two separate shows, and there was a forbidden door between those two shows, and eventually, like once a year, somebody crossed over. It was like a special or a unique thing where somebody would come over to somebody else's territory and then beat the shit out of somebody, as opposed to a superstar shakedown or a draft or whatever.
Like if Kerry Von Erich just showed up one day in 1981 at Mid Atlantic and like right beside Bob Caudle, just stood there. What are you doing here, Kerry?
Who is this young man with a great physique? And then all of a sudden he shows up and he starts beating up Ricky Steamboat for no reason whatsoever. That's what you would.
See, that's exactly what we're talking about.
I just don't. That to me is what that stuff drives me crazy about all. And by the way, does everything have to be some salute to something that Misawa did back in fucking 1998? Does that the match they just had, it's exactly, and it's great, and he wore the green, and it's exactly that's fantastic. That stuff drives me nuts, Brad.
Yeah, that stuff drives me nuts as well. I was a tape trader kid. When I was in high school and in college, I mean, I had the stack of VHS tapes and everything. So like I was there for a lot of that stuff, but I do think there's a little bit of a disconnect between that and being on worldwide television, being on like how many Mr. and Mrs. Walmart don't know Misawa, and
exactly.
And it's great. It's great to have a killer show that sells out the Hammerstein Ballroom and it's 2,000 people and it's all and can do all that kind of stuff. You want the Hammerstein Ballroom crowd, but you also want Des Moines. And there's there can be a disconnect, I think. One in particular, I won't never. I'm a lovely fellow, but we'll drop some references to like Japanese promotions that I've never heard of. Just
Thank you.
Does anyone in Terre Haute know what you're talking about?
No.
I love it. I think that's exactly right. And hey, look, I know the three of us, we watch wrestling every single day. We watch something with wrestling, whether it's new programming or we go back, we'll watch Memphis from 1986, or you and I, we're watching wrestling all the time. There are people in this world that watch wrestling once every month. Once every 2 months, once every 6 weeks. I know, and I know it's crazy. And for these people to know, something that happened at Wrestle Kingdom in 2006, and you can't expect her to know. And by the way, they don't go through entire Reddit threads trying to figure out the life of Antonio Inoki. They just don't. So yeah. I mean that's just the shit that happens, and they're like, oh, you missed Wrestling Observer on October the 8th of 1992. Well, Dave said this, and that's what we based it. I was like, no, I didn't get it that week. The mailman must have dropped it or dropped it in the paper shredder or something. And they, I mean, that is the stuff that drives me absolutely apeshit, because I think I know more than your average bear about wrestling, but my God, these guys go so far over the heads of the heads of people that it can't be a mainstream product. I mean, but admittedly, they're doing stuff right. They're killing it. That 18 to 49 demo, they're nailing it. They're doing exactly what they need to do with that stuff. They've made, despite the fact that Vince swears it's not competition, they've made him do stuff. That whole thing about Becky getting the belt off of Bianca Belair, that whole thing, and bringing Brock back when they did, that was a complete reaction to AEW getting CM Punk and creating a huge stir with it. And his TV partner is saying, hey, you want to do something? Vince, would you like to do something? Because we kind of need a pop here. And then Vince freaked out and they had to do something.
I don't know that I would concur with you that bringing Brock back was reactionary in that regard, only because my guess would be that he would have always been penciled in for the Saudi show.
Maybe, yeah.
So you would have had to have bring him. You would have had to have bring plus or minus 4 to 6 weeks of possibly the same for Becky Lynch, because Becky Lynch did that interview after she came back at SummerSlam and said her target return had been October, and I didn't really think that much about it at the time. But then as things Crown Jewel was the only pay-per-view in October. Right. So I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I certainly think you would have factored Brian to that show and would have been within 4 to 6 weeks, whether they had, CM Punk or going front on the show.
Let's talk about the new NXT 2.0 for a little while, because it has taken a different direction with Triple H. You talked about his health issues and not being able to step in, and it looks to be under the full control now of Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. They've changed the color scheme. They're calling it NXT 2.0. They have one of the most can't-miss prospects in wrestling, possibly since Dwayne Johnson. Rick Steiner's kid looks like he's absolutely, in terms of physique, in terms of selling, in terms of aptitude, in terms of just a mental disposition for the business, this looks like the can't-miss kid right now. Tell me what you think about Braun Breaker and about how you see him progressing in the brand new NXT.
I'm impressed with the talent in the brand new NXT. Again, I'm not there, but the attitude seemed to be there for a long time of kind of leaving people in developmental in the performance center for a long time. Things would have been made and develop over time. And I thought it was very interesting that the NXT 2.0 took a lot of people that were very new and very freshly signed and with minimal experience. They were pulling for NXT 2.0. They did not pull. Been in the performance center for a year, 3 people there. Other than Von Wagner, he's been down there for a little while, but Bryce was just signed. Bull Buchanan's son, who is in the Country Western tag team, he was just signed earlier this year. So the were just signed earlier this year. So it was very interesting to me that they seem to break from that of lead of develop or mature or grow or whatever. They took some of the they some people that I can only speculate and press them right off the bat. Maybe, I don't know. But some of the new recruits and some deeper. And I actually like the show quite a lot. I think it feels like a wrestling TV show. It feels some and they get in confrontations. I think it unfolds and develops in very wrestling sort of fashion, even though the theatricality and the pre like a lot more cinematic than traditional 80s or 90s wrestling ever was. The meat and potatoes sort of the show still feels very pro.
Mm-hmm. There's certain elements of NXT that bother me a lot. I mean, I know, like, for example, the guys that have been down there for a while, like, I don't know what else you have for a Tommaso Ciampa. I don't know what he has left to prove in that promotion and what you can do with him at this point. It seems like he's languishing and just treading water. You have any thoughts on that?
I kind of liked the thing he was doing with Timothy Thatcher, and I'm not sure where he factors into things. They would get the tag belts and have a run, and then probably split up and feud. That's even done moderately well. That's a year. You know, if nobody gets hurt or nobody gets called up, and I don't know who it was, but I was surprised to see them split, because I thought that would be his direction, and that's a smart. There's lots of instances you can point to of you know, somebody that has carried the title or has been in main events, and you know, the wheel is going round again. You know, put them in a tag team, have a tag team run. I think that's a little bit. I think that's a little bit easier to swallow, for lack of a better term. And you know, the guy who was the champion, and now all of a sudden he's challenging for the secondary title, or I think the tag team is more lateral move, I think. So I thought that was a good move for them, and I thought they had good chemistry. I understand the Joe situation is what it was, but I kind of surprised to jettison that, because I think you could have gotten another year out of Tommaso to point now when the time comes for that belt. Move is.
What do you think is going to be the key to guiding Braun Breaker? Again, the can't miss kid right now. What if you were in charge of help guiding this guy and getting him through to that vaunted next level? How would you handle that, or what steps would you take? Would you approach this very cautiously, or what would you do?
When you say approach it cautiously, is booking and how you presented,
all of the above.
Or what?
Like, as far as throwing him in hot feuds, putting him right at the top of the card, pushing him onto one of the two big brands, either Raw or SmackDown. How would you approach?
Without Roman Reignsing him?
Without Roman Reignsing him, putting him up there at a time when he's not ready for it. How would you help try to guide him so that you can kind of put him in the position that he's ready for?
I thought this was peculiar. They will do it every now and then, but they're very selective, it seems, about it. You know, he didn't win it this past week. Whatever. There's 52 weeks in a year, so
yeah.
And I always thought it was weird that they didn't do this. And gosh, I'm trying to think of because so many guys have been released. But they didn't send, let's just say, Sheamus down next for months, 6 months, whatever, as someone to basically kind of help teach the guys, you know, the work. I think there was, now that I think about it, there was a lot more of that on the WWE CW. If you think back to that, they would always have Regal or Goldust, you know, and that was where Bob had to get that. That was Benoit had just CW and ended up never having a match there. I think even Finlay was there for a little while. I never understood why they didn't like some guys off TV and send them to NXT just to sort of work people. Like, I know they but it's like the Mandy Rose thing. They've done it a few times, but then they sort of sit back there permanently, and that's not really what I'm talking about. Take a Sheamus, take somebody that's got a lot of experience, big league talent, and work with Braun for 3 months or for 6 months or whatever, and then you can reintroduce Sheamus on SmackDown. What we're gonna do with him? It's just gets the better of the issue, and he's standing tall. Maybe he does a little 1 week thing, somebody from NXT for 1 or 2 months at NXT, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, Dolph Ziggler or somebody is on the title shot. So like you can picture Robert Roode. Nobody ever talks about Robert Roode, but I think Robert Roode is phenomenal.
Yep.
And TV 15 years now.
Yeah.
So I always thought it was weird that they didn't, kind of just sort of cycle guys on there to help these guys. It doesn't even necessarily be the Braun Breaker, I mean, Dolph send Dolph to NXT for 6 months with Trevor Lee. Like, but I always thought that was weird that they, it's a lot of there are matches that are the blind leading on. And that's a scary proposition on live TV.
Yeah, it is. No, I love the idea of Dolph Ziggler headed down there and to do some stuff, and he could really teach those guys a lot. And my God, how much could Dolph Ziggler do to put a guy like Braun Breaker over? That would be absolutely amazing.
Well, didn't they try that already?
And
with that
there's so many guys like that.
Shane McMahon.
What was that, Bryant?
I was just saying, didn't they try that already with Dolph Ziggler on the Shane McMahon Underground? Didn't they send Dolph down there? I don't know. I'm not sure.
He showed up and kind of like choked somebody out, but I think that was just sort of, I guess, I think really just kind of went down the line and was like, okay, who has some type of background? Who has some type of fight? Okay, you go do this thing. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it was so arbitrary.
The only thing that came out of that Underground thing was almost, as in he almost has some talent.
Not bad. He's really not. Like, it is to be a WWE superstar. He is not bad at all because he's got a great face. He knows where the cameras are. He and he has been well nurtured to this is what you need to do. Else, and even what he does is not necessarily just walk in and smash everybody. It's effective. I like it almost to sort of have I always thought that was smart that China wasn't the featured of Triple H, but like China would always have moments, whether it was just blasting somebody with a forearm or slamming the door on the cage door or whatever. It was very has been very similar.
But I think he's also setting him up so at some point in time, Vince shows up one day and he figures just like Keith Lee and Otis that a guy doesn't know how to work. You got to send down to NXT for a couple of months so he can learn how to Hurricane Rana or Suicida Plancha or some shit like that. They just woke up one day and he figured out, hey Bruce, they don't know how to work. Send them down to Florida. I want them to learn how to work. They don't have to work. They have to do like 3 moves. There's 3 moves that those guys need to do. They don't need to go down and do anything else. What the fuck are you doing?
Hulk Hogan line 2.
There's only like 3. There's nothing that almost needs to do. He needs to do like 2 things. That's all he ever needs to do in his entire life. And he can make money for 10 or 20 years, right?
Yeah, positively.
He doesn't have to do anything. We'll let you go for now. I really appreciate you coming on. It's at Stuttsy, STUTTSY on Twitter if you want to follow him. And I'm sure he would love to talk wrestling with you on any level. FSPWrestling.com is Firestar Pro Wrestling. Of course, the big weekend we're looking forward to is Thanksgiving weekend, which is going to be WrestleCade, WrestleCade.com. And, of course, AML Wrestling is going to be featured there as well. So check out AML Wrestling as well.
Hey, let's try to do this during Wrestle. Let's try to do this again during WrestleCade.
We do need to get together so we can check this out and kind of compare notes and stuff. I know you're going to be wicked busy that entire time, but if we get together, that'd be wonderful.
If you can squeeze it in.
No, that'd be perfect. Yeah, pencil me in. That'd be fantastic. Would love to.
All right, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You guys
Thanks, Stutz.
coming out supporting Firestar Greensboro.
Had a blast.
Until next time, fans, we'll see you ringside.